The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph. George Washington wrote those words during one of the darkest winters of the American Revolution. Yet, his true triumph was not simply victory in war. It was in the way he carried power, and the moments he chose to lay it down. His life is a rare blueprint for leadership that endures, not because of ambition, but because of restraint. Christmas night, 1776. The revolution is collapsing. Morale is gone. The army is shrinking by the day. Across the river, British troops and Hessian mercenaries celebrate in the warmth of their barracks, convinced the rebellion is over. In the bitter cold, Washington makes a decision that will define not just his command, but the very possibility of independence. He orders a nighttime crossing of the Delaware River. The wind cuts like a blade. Ice crashes against the boats. Soldiers shiver in ragged coats, many without shoes. But in the midst of that misery, Washington stands among them, silent, steady, eyes fixed on the far bank. By dawn, against all odds, the victory at Trenton ignites hope. This moment was more than a military maneuver. It was proof of a principle. Leadership is not about comfort. It's about presence when the stakes are highest. Washington was not a flawless strategist. In truth, he lost more battles than he won. But his genius lay in how he led. At Princeton, bullets pierced his coat. At Monmouth, he rode into the thick of the fight, under blistering heat. At Valley Forge, when food was scarce and frostbite claimed men's toes and fingers, he lived in the same cold, ate the same bread, endured the same hunger. This was not theater, it was conviction. He understood that orders carry weight only when the leader bears the same burden as those who follow. His presence on the front lines turned fear into courage, doubt into loyalty. Today, leadership is too often confused with distance. Is staying above the struggle? The true leaders step into the mud with their people. The founder who works late beside their team, the teacher who stands in the hallway greeting every student by name, the friend who sits with you in your grief instead of just sending condolences. Leading from the front is not about rank. It's about choosing proximity over comfort. Washington knew that example is the strongest form of persuasion, and it's a lesson as vital now as it was in the snow of Valley Forge. When the war ended in 1783, Washington could have had anything. The army adored him. People trusted him. The young nation was fragile and could have easily slipped into monarchy. History tells us what usually happens here. Victorious generals keep power. Julius Caesar did. Napoleon did. But Washington didn't. He resigned his commission and went home to Mount Vernon. King George III reportedly said, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." Years later, as the first president, he led for 2 terms. And then again, he stepped away. No law required it. No one could have stopped him from staying. But he believed leadership was a trust, not a throne. His choice created one of America's most important traditions, the peaceful transfer of power. In our world, letting go is often mistaken for weakness. We cling to roles, titles, and influence as if our identity depends on them. But wisdom knows that legacy isn't about how long you hold power. It's about leaving the system stronger when you depart. The best leaders make themselves unnecessary, not irreplaceable. Washington's restraint was not passive. It was active protection of the ideals he had fought for. He showed that sometimes the most courageous act is not taking power, but giving it back. Washington was not without flaws. He lived with contradictions. Fighting for liberty while owning enslaved people. Wrestled with those tensions, freeing some in his will, yet never fully resolving the moral divide. Like all of us, his life carried both ideals and imperfections. But through war, politics, and personal life, one thread remained unbroken: a deep commitment to duty, honor, and self-control. He warned against political parties, fearing they would divide the nation, cautioned against foreign entanglements that could drag America into unnecessary wars. Circumstances change. Economies rise and fall. Alliances shift. Public favor turns. But character is the one currency that never devalues. It's not earned in a moment. It's built in the 1,000 small choices you make when no one is watching. Your possessions will fade. Your title will vanish. But the way you lived, the way you treated people, the principles you held, these will outlast you. Washington's monuments are made of stone, but his real legacy is the trust he built through consistent integrity. George Washington's story is not just history, it's philosophy in action. Lead where you stand, no matter the odds. Step away when your work is done, even if the world begs you to stay. Build a character so steady that no storm can erode it. His life teaches us that greatness is not in holding on, but in knowing when to let go. Not in perfection, but in consistency. Not in taking ground, but in raising a standard others can follow long after you are gone. Because leadership at its core is not about power, it's about service. And service, when done with honor, is the kind of triumph that time can never take away.